Welcome everybody to DOULA-LA, our special event for World Doula Week 2015. I'm so excited today to introduce Debra Pascali-Bonaro. Hello Debra, welcome.
Oh, thank you so much, Tanya. It's such a pleasure to be here with you and all the doulas around the world.
Yes. High five to the doulas. Virtual
Yeah,
high five.
High five.
Thank you. Hey everybody, I just wanted to say that I'm coordinating another event locally for International Women's Day. A theme this year for International Women's Day is Make It Happen. And Debra, I felt like that was a good theme for you and I as well, because we are both busy birth professionals working, with a busy life, and we did make this call happen today. So I want to extend my gratitude for you being with us today. And I've got your bio here, so I want to tell everybody, if they don't know about you, then they need to. So Debra Pascali-Bonaro has been featured on ABC's 2020, Good Morning Russia, the NBC Today Show, Discovery Health in the New York Times, the LA Times, the UK Times, as well as numerous parenting and health magazines around the world. Debra is a pioneer in reminding humanity that birth can be full of pleasure and delight. Debra has trained thousands of doulas and birth professionals around the world in the practice of gentle birth support. Debra is the creator and director of Orgasmic Birth, a documentary that examines the intimate nature of birth, an everyday miracle. She sees the powerful role birth professionals play in women's lives when they are permitted to experience it fully. Debra is a sought-after inspirational speaker, chair of the International Mother-Baby Childbirth Organization, member of the White Ribbon Alliance, Lamaze International Childbirth Educator, birth and postpartum doula trainer with DONA International, and co-author of the book Orgasmic Birth, Your Guide to a Safe, Satisfying, and Pleasurable Birth Experience. Her newest baby launches in early 2015 online childbirth class that will provide you the keys to move from pain to pleasure in childbirth and beyond. And you're going to tell us more about that at the end of the call, right?
I will. Thank you so much for that beautiful introduction.
Great. Straight off your website. So that's Debra Pascali-Bonaro.com, Bonaro.com, right?
Correct.
I'll make sure and have a link on the fancy video. I'll make sure I put a link up after we're done the recording today. So this event for World Doula Week, which is March 22nd through 28th, 2015, kind of came together pretty quickly, and I decided that doulas are always giving and serving mothers, right? And I thought, why don't I put together something with some special doulas, high-profile doulas for birth professionals, and this event came together. And so I just started shouting out. I even put on my Facebook, who are the most well-known doulas that you know, and got a lot of feedback, and your name definitely was up there on the list. So thanks again for being here.
Well, it's really a pleasure, and I'm so happy you're doing this for World Doula Week. It's such an exciting time as doulas, and as you say, we need to nurture ourselves because, boy, this wave is about to really be a good ride.
I'm excited to be on it. Hey, Debra, I want to start with how you got into the birth world, because you're like one of the mentor doulas for us all, and we often forget that there's definitely a profound history for each birth professional. So can you start with telling us a little bit about your journey?
Yeah, thank you for asking, because we all have that story, and our stories are so important and powerful because we all start this because of some personal connection. And for me, I really have to go back to my great-grandmother, and it's interesting. As you know, I'm doing this call with you today in Denver as I'm awaiting my cousin's daughter's birth. And so we've been sharing a lot of our family stories. As a matter of fact, last night, we actually talked about our great-grandmother and how she gave birth to 8 children at home and used the kitchen sink as a place to kind of prop her arms and squat. And, a couple births came so quick that the midwife didn't make it. And so her siblings, my grandmother was able to catch a child. Wow. So when I was little, my great-grandmother was still with me, and she would tell me these birth stories of moving and, power, and I never heard fear. I only heard joy and excitement. And then my grandmother had a home birth in northern New Jersey where my family all settled, and it just wasn't in her home at that time. We didn't call them birth centers, but really they were. It was kind of, you went to the local family doctor's home and you gave birth. So it was a home birth elsewhere. And I was the first baby in my entire family when my mother came to give birth. Birth had become really medicalized, and we lost home birth in all of the US, but definitely outside New York City. And she went to the hospital, but lucky for her, she labored at home with her mother and her grandmother. And they knew to keep her moving and showering. And they made that circle of support that we do as doulas. She was surrounded with women who believed in her and in birth and loved her through labor.
Yeah.
So they didn't let her get there till she was fully dilated. So in a time of medicalized birth, I was another natural birth. So when it came my time to give birth to my first son, I was living in Montreal, Canada, and they had lost midwifery, and there were no doulas yet. And it really made me look at kind of that her story, that female history of birth, and realize what we were missing. And lucky for me, and I won't tell you the whole story, but I was able to have really powerful, pleasurable birth, even despite many obstacles. But it set me on a path to say that many women today don't have that her story, don't know their great-grandmother's journey. And if you're listening out there, that's homework I say to everybody. Find what is your connection.
Yeah.
You know, what did your mother and grandmother and great-grandmother and as far back as you can go, what was birth like for them? But I became a childbirth educator, passing that wisdom on, and all of a sudden found myself invited to be at births. And I went, oh, okay, I'd love that. And I started attending births, and it wasn't until 1987, where I'd already been attending many births, that I picked up Mothering magazine. I have to credit Mothering. I love
Peggy,
them.
we love you,
yes,
Peggy.
And in it was an article about a doula. And that was my light bulb aha moment, where I went, there's a name for what I'm doing.
Cool.
I'm a doula.
Cool.
And that began the journey of, and I don't know if you know this, but a lot of people across America had that light bulb in 1987. If you can ever get that edition of Mothering, it's the first journal that had a doula publication. And it was about a doula, Cindy, in Rhode Island. And she, now remember, this is before internet, which is hard for some of you to imagine. We actually had to call information and the old telephone that was still attached to the wall and get Cindy on the phone. And she took down our addresses and typed us all, each other's names, numbers, and addresses. And we started to get together. And that was how I connected to Penny Simpkin. That was how many of us that kind of said, we're doulas, came together. And the very first doula meeting anywhere in the world was 1987 in Montclair, New Jersey. Wow. And myself and other doulas organized it. And that was kind of the first seeds of us beginning to say, wow, if we're doing this, we need to find a way to help other women to remember and awaken and pass along the wisdom.
Wow, I'm learning so much right now. I thought I was going to be blessed with, I know I'm going to be blessed with the orgasmic birth and the pleasure birth, but this history, this rich history you're sharing with us about our profession, this is, everybody listening, this is a gem.
Yeah.
There's a history here. That is so cool. And it was grassroots, right? So
yeah, totally grassroots. And out of that, so much came, you know, as you put a group of doulas together, you can't stop us from talking, right?
Right.
And about 30 women came to that meeting, and that just set the roots for doulas to kind of spread out around the U.S. because women flew in from all different states. We weren't all local. Wow. And I can tell you more because then in 1995, and it was through this connection, I met a doula at the time called Jane Arnold. And I'll never forget the day when I got that piece of paper with everybody's name and address and number. Jane was closest to me, and I called her. And she was a single mother with 4 little children, really on her own, but she was running a doula service already in 87 called the Mom Service, and had reimbursement from Kaiser Permanente in Westchester, New York. And she just happened to be holding a doula circle and invited me, a sister across the river, to come over. And I remember going that day with my little children, because I had 3 at that time, and bringing a potluck. And as we sat there, Jane said to me, you know, I'm going to go to nursing school. I'm going to go to midwifery school. I'm going to serve underserved women. I'm going to really bring doulas and midwives together in a big way, and we're going to get funding to do this. Now, when you're a single mother of 4, all on your own, just struggling to kind of feed these kids and all sitting on a front lawn, I was like, wow, like what a vision. Power to you, Jane. But I have to tell you, Jane not only did that and more, but I followed along. We became dear friends. And in 1995, as a practicing midwife, she started the very first community doula program out of the Morris Heights Birth Center in the South Bronx, New York.
Yeah.
And it was the first time we really had funding, and we hired women from the community for the community. And I was a part of that training. And then we went on to have another doula project in Paterson, New Jersey, for women in treatment for substance abuse and addiction.
Yeah.
So my journey with that first women just exploded. Every little group of women that gathers, where you can go and what you can do is amazing.
Yeah, and now in 2015, our reach is so huge, you know, but I find a lot of times we're not networking as well as we could be, you know, but so much is going through my mind about what you just said, especially this idea of, you know, this passion, this calling, but then not feeling confident enough to value your worth, which I feel like is a huge undercurrent to our profession, right? Where, I mean, I know I've changed significantly myself in the past few years, and investing in some business and learning about standing in my worth and my value. But I mean, I used to be the first doula to say, okay, and here's my fee, but that's flexible. Like right away, before I could tell if they could even pay or not, I was saying, oh, but it, you know, it can be lower than that, or you know,
right?
And so, you know, with community birth programs, right, with our community doula programs, especially if you're going through grassroots and not-for-profit organizations, you can get funding to pay for your doula work, right? So it's a bit of a loophole there, but I mean, hey, and double bonus, you're serving underprivileged women, so
yeah. So important. And you're really empowering everybody. I mean, we're empowered as the doula because giving is receiving. And the more we give, the more space we make to receive even more. Right. And for the women we serve, we know we're giving them a great gift of empowerment. But I really am glad to hear you standing in your power and your worth. And one thing I always encourage doulas who are kind of hesitant on charging in that is to say that we're giving out a lot of our wisdom, our time, our energy, right? And one form of being paid for that, one form of energy is currency or money. But there are many ways to exchange energy. And so I'm one that, you know, it never has to be a monetary exchange, but it has to be an equal exchange. So I do a lot of barter, and I've had plumbing and carpentry and website editing, and the list goes on and on. Yeah. Meals cooked for me, and childcare, and massages. Oh, I love massage therapists. Body workers and all of that. So I think that as new doulas, you really need to understand that your energy and wisdom has great value, and you can find a way to make that accessible to everybody because everybody has a gift to exchange. As a matter of fact, for some people, not allowing them to exchange that energy sometimes devalues your service.
Right. Yeah, that's so true. I wish I had heard these words when I started 10 years ago. But hey, it's this is for all new doulas or, you know, experienced doulas. This event is for everybody. So I'm hoping everybody accepts that wisdom. And I myself just exchanged half of my birth services fee for some gardening, right? Because I have a huge property and I don't have time to start my seeds. And the young lady that I'm helping is a beautiful gardener, so she's going to start all my tomatoes and come and help me in my garden. So it's perfect.
Isn't that wonderful?
Yeah. But you know what I did say? I said, please be clear about what your hourly fee is, for a garden consultation, and what you would charge for the plants themselves, so that it is an equal exchange. So I know how many hours of her time I'm getting, and in this case her product, the plants that she's going to give me, right? So that it's fair, right?
Yes. And I would even put that in writing, right?
Yeah.
Just like we have our doula contract. And for pregnant mamas, make sure you put a time frame, because you don't want them feeling obligated at 2 weeks postpartum to serve you. Always help them understand when that exchange will be.
Yes, thank you for offering that. That's very important. Okay, I want to move on a little bit, because I know that we're running on a bit of a time restraint. I myself have my daughter here who's sleeping, so just to everybody, in case she comes, we all have young families, and then your cousin has a son that may come home too, right?
Yes.
So that's okay. But I want to talk a little bit about inspiration as doulas and birth professionals. So I know there's going to be more than just doulas on the line, and sometimes it can be I don't want to say tough, but it can be challenging sometimes to be in this profession. And do you have specific ways that you draw inspiration to keep moving forward, and how you sort of project your vision into your work, and
Yes.
tell me.
A really important question. And I think that each person needs to find what's their own way of kind of filling their cup. How do you nurture yourself? Because sometimes as doulas, we burn out because we give so much. We overcommit without the time for ourselves. So I'm one, I love the creative arts. So for me, it's like dance and art and movement and journaling and writing, but making time every day. And sometimes, people think, okay, well, how do you make hours of time? But I can just put on a song I love for 3 minutes, and then, just let myself go. And it can allow the stress to go. It can also be to dance my vision, sometimes to dance my challenges, and to bring in what I need to keep going. I call it journey dance. It's something that I really learned and explored and have trained in. But I think we each need to find what is it that we can do in little bites, because sometimes trying to make big bites, and that's good too. I mean, I love to do when I can get to my hour-and-a-half yoga class, but I don't want to beat myself up if I can't do that all the time in amongst my life.
Yeah, I love that. I love little bits, right? And and offering as well what that full-bodied self-nurturing looks like when everything's lined up perfectly and you can make it happen. But a dance break while you're doing dishes is just as nourishing, right?
Right. And I always add in dark chocolate. I mean, for me, dark chocolate's orgasmic, so that goes right along, a little bit every day. I mean, what are those little perks, whether it's just enjoying your shower in a new way each day. I think for me, it's finding that there's pleasure available and nurturing all day in any situation. I just have to be grateful for what it is. And then find the bigger pieces. But back to what we said earlier, it's also having your circle of support. I mean, I need to have my sister doulas. I need those people to process birth and life with me, to be able to have that phone call, but really important to be in physical presence. I think that with internet, with Skype like we're doing, it's wonderful that we can connect in new ways. And they do offer nourishment, but it's not the same as physically being present with each other, of really sitting together with a cup of tea, even if it's just for 30 minutes, and doing a check-in. So I really encourage people at least once a month, if they can get out with one other birth worker or doula, and maybe more than that.
Yeah. And even organizing a local monthly or bi-monthly group, one of our local doulas has reached out, and everybody's saying, yes, let's do it. And it feels so good, and I bet if you're the doula who says, let's all get together, that everyone will have such praise for you, because it's a tough thing to do, right? But sometimes there's this feeling of competition in our work, but really there's an abundance of work available for everybody, and to network with one another is such a gift,
Yes. And we need to support each other and lift each other higher. The more doulas there are, the more doulas we need. So I'm always sad if I hear of competition, because the more we support each other, the more we all benefit. I mean, really, when you look at Childbirth Connections listening to Mother Survey and other guesstimates, we're thinking we're serving, what, 5 or 6% of the population. And with Medicaid reimbursement already in legislation in 2 states, right, Minnesota and Oregon, and other states kind of following behind, and I think a reality in the next year or two, you have to figure that even if, let's say, 30% of all women wanted a doula, that's a lot more women we need to serve.
You're going to be training a lot more women, Deborah. Get ready.
It's already overwhelming in the New York area. I don't know if you saw the beautiful New York doula report from Choices in Childbirth, choicesinchildbirth.org. And their doula study is phenomenal. And right now I'm training for the New York City Council is funding doula programs in underserved communities in the 5 boroughs. And
it's a really exciting time for doulas right now, isn't it?
Wow.
Yeah.
Really exciting. And to be able to really see this at the community level and really see us know that we can reach all women without barriers. That's a dream. I get choked up because when I started, I never thought in my lifetime that we would see doulas as a part of a healthcare system. And when I did the first training for the New York City Council, I just cried because I thought, wow, to have New York City really put their money to say doulas are so precious and valuable in improving health outcomes and reducing disparities and healing our communities on so many levels. It's just, wow, heartwarming.
It really is. So you said you never would have seen that. You know, you never would have thought that you would have seen doula care in public health. But what's your visions for the future? What do you see? What do you hope and wish for the future of doulas?
Yeah, I really, in the United States, I think we're a year or 2 away from doulas in every state. And I think all that it takes is a doula like in Oregon, in Minnesota. It was one doula that stepped forward and said, I'm going to take the lead. Like you said, the one doula, like, let me invite the doulas over to do a circle. There's one person in every state that needs to step forward and get her sister doulas to support her and get the legislation implemented in your state.
Yeah.
The Affordable Care Act says anything A or B rated should be covered by Medicaid. And doulas are A-rated by ACOG. And if everyone out there doesn't know the journal, I mean, I can shoot it to you and you can post it out in emails.
Yeah.
But the data's there. Our only barrier is us really doing it. And then the great news for those that might be listening around the world is that doulas are taking off all over the world. And sadly, the United States exported some of our worst practices and things around the world. But maybe doula can be an example that once we implement, we can lead for other countries that are considering having doulas play a more prominent role in healthcare.
Yeah, this is going to take uniting and gathering and, grassroots, bringing it to the legislation. And I'm inspired. I got goosebumps when you were saying it takes one doula. I was like, I'm going to do that. Why haven't I done that yet? And I'm in Canada, right? And so we have a different healthcare system, but it's the same thing. I'm definitely going to start writing some letters.
Totally. And Canada and the US, right? I mean, there's such an overlap. I mean, granted, there are many differences, but there's also similarities. Mm-hmm. And I really do think the time is right. The date is there. Yeah. I mean, the late Dr. Kennel, what a blessing he was to us. But his famous quote, if a doula were a drug, it would be unethical to withhold her. I don't see how any healthcare system cannot look at the data now and say, why aren't we implementing this effective tool to improve women's birth experience?
Right. And let's move into now that I'm feeling inspired to talk to you about a mother's own role in her pathway to pleasurable birth experience. Obviously, if you're a mother listening to this, hire a doula. There's a plethora of doulas available. So shout out my little Shout out to doulas. But, you know, a lot of your work is based upon the foundation that there's pleasure available to women at birth. So, and I mean, I don't even know where to start with your work, so I'm going to let you do that. But talk to us about everything you've discovered over the past years and where you're taking it now.
Well, and it started back to my great-grandmother, right? Like when I heard a lot of stories, I didn't hear the words pain and fear. I heard a lot about power and joy and the ecstasy of welcoming your baby. But then when I listened to common language in our media, really in the last 20 years or so, we've just been entrenched with pain and fear. And I thought, that's not all there is in birth. There's so much more available, but if we use our current paradigm and women are being stripped of their identity, wearing hospital gowns, they're literally being put down into beds and chairs and that, they've lost so much of their power that our current model is not allowing them to experience the fullness of birth. So what I've been really doing is kind of interviewing, filming our documentary, Orgasmic Birth, The Best Kept Secret, really birthing forward the stories of the women, the men, the partners that aren't kind of giving that over. They're really moving, they're dancing their babies out, they're using the creative arts, singing and joy. That's not to say they don't have fears, but they're finding wonderful ways to address them and release them when they come up before or whether they surface in labor. And so I've built a whole program around it now, and you mentioned it at the beginning, but we have an online class you can access from anywhere in the world called Pain to Power Childbirth.com. And what we're doing is really helping women and men and partners and grandparents, and many doulas are taking our class to gain skills on how they can pass that along. But there's many things from changing the language of birth. Sorry, I'm losing my earpiece here. But the words that we use lead us to pain, so it's a new language. It's so many more techniques. And the last piece that's sometimes challenging for people is seeing that birth is a part of our sexual life, and why for some women their sexuality has not been positive. And I really want to honor many women are survivors of sexual abuse, and that pregnancy and birth is an amazing time to bring healing, to reclaim your body and access that pleasure that I believe is every woman's birthright, to birth her baby in love with dignity and respect. So there's way too many layers to kind of give you all of it in a short call, but I hope that it's a glimpse into just looking at birth really in a traditional way, but bringing techniques that I've learned from all around the world together and regathering women's wisdom and women's power.
Yeah. Well, I think your film is a really great place to start. So if you're not familiar with Debra's work, definitely check out Orgasmic Birth. Is it the best kept births?
Kept secret?
Yeah, what's the subtitle?
The Best Kept Secret.
Yeah, The Best Kept Secret. And don't be, I know when I first heard of your film title, and I think I've come a long way in the idea of like pleasure available at birth. And I am a birth professional. So, you know, if you have, like, seriously, because that film is so well presented. Do you know, just like, it's not just jumping at you with intense information. It's a gentle journey and shows real women experiencing real pleasure, and then the science behind it all is on top of that. So thank you so much for that incredible work. And then going to Debra's website, which is www.DebraPascali-Bonaro.com. I'm going to have that on the bottom for you all.
Okay,
when we
thank
edit.
you.
You're welcome. And then, yes, the next round of, it's the online course you just spoke of, right?
Yes, online, so you can join us. It's 12 weeks, paintopowerchildbirth.com.
Wonderful. And that's opening up in May, right? Or it starts in May? Is it open for registration right now, or?
You can sign up, and we have some free tips for you on finding pleasure in birth if you join the mailing list on that. And then in April, we have 3 free videos for anybody that is on our list, either now or by then. Wow. And then registration will begin the end of April for May.
Right. And doulas around the world are saying how beneficial this training has been. So it's not just for mothers, it's for birth professionals as well. well. I got to sign up myself. I love your list. I join her mailing list. All the content is so relevant and beautiful. So I think that we're closing now. I just, if there's any like last words that we can, that you can offer to, let's do both. Let's do both aspiring and new doulas, and then we'll move on to sort of the veterans and, you know, doulas who are feeling a little tired. So what do you have to say to aspiring doulas?
Aspiring doulas, you have so much wisdom. I think my message to both pregnant mamas and to new doulas is that we have to really tap into our inner wisdom, that somehow we've lost touch with that, and really know that what resonates in your heart, that gut feeling, is really your truth. And being a doula is just about allowing that to come forth. It's about tapping into that, and everyone is a doula at heart when you really allow yourself to unconditionally nurture, love, and support another woman at such a sacred time as the day that she's going to bring life into the world and the days postpartum. So I hope if you're thinking about being a doula, do it, whether you do it for your sister, your friend, your neighbor, or for many other women. It's something I think each woman needs to know, is to rediscover those doula skills.
Yeah. Yeah. And then what's your message to those of us who have been in the profession for a long time and who maybe aren't feeling as excited about the profession as, of course, evidently you and I are, and where we're headed? But I know, you know, I hear a lot from birth professionals that say, how do you keep going? What's your secret? And, you know, what do you have to say for us?
Yeah, and if you've been doing it, and it's hard because we have a maternity system that I call dysfunctional, and if you've ever been in a dysfunctional relationship or family or organization, you know that good people can be taken down, and so we kind of find ourselves in the frustration, sometimes actually bearing witness to an abusive system, which is even beyond just basic dysfunction. So we really need to get out there, and I say I wear two hats. So I have my doula hat, which is to unconditionally love and nurture the woman and support her in whatever birth calls of her and where she's chosen and how to birth. But I take that off after every birth, and for me to get inspired and keep going, I need that big activist hat, and I keep weaving that bigger and bigger and bigger. And we need to get out there, and I really think it's time. Like you said, International Women's Day, I'm going to be marching in New York City. We're trying to get the largest march ever happening. If you're in the New York, New Jersey area, march with us. Get a march going in your own community. March online and post your comments and tweet out. We need to be taking a stand and speaking up and speaking out, because if you're experienced, you know the gaps, and you know that what will change our system, it's not money, it's more love, respect, dignity, it's gentle birth, it's bringing pleasure, it's bringing a new language, and those of us that have experience know how to do it. So don't be silent with your frustration. By giving it voice, the change it's happening, and it's going to happen. I think we've started the tidal wave. So watch out, everybody, but get on that wave.
Debra said it here first. Or maybe not first, but she said it here. DOULA-LA 2015 in celebration of World Doula Week, March 22nd through 28th. Thank you all so much for being here. And once again, deep gratitude for you, Debra. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. And everyone, have a blessed day.
Same to you. Bye-bye.